That assassin snail right there, so not the Malaysian trumpet snail, but the assassin snail behind it, has been on that position or in that position for multiple days right now. And at this point, I am really starting to wonder whether that snail is just sleeping or is dead. So in this video, I am going to tell you how you can tell whether a snail has died, has passed away. It's actually very easy. So let's try and take him out. So the first thing that you need to do when you think a snail has passed away is look for any obvious signs like a broken shell or an empty shell. It's very hard for this assessing snail or for me to be able to tell that. And it's actually regular for snails to sleep for a long time. So the way to find out whether your snail is dead is to smell it. Now, if the snail has passed away, they start to decay, to rot basically, very quickly. And when they rot, they produce a lot of ammonia. People often refer to them as ammonia bombs as well when they sadly pass away. So if the snail is dead, then you'll be able to smell it. That's only when they've been dead just a couple of days. I have to admit this one has been here for over a week right now, so let's go. Alright, so this snail right here smells like nothing basically. Right now I can't tell whether the snail has died or not. And that's because I'm just gonna carefully put him back. And that's because snails have a weird sleeping and being active pattern. They are not like humans or many other animals that they are active during the daytime and sleep during the nighttime. Snails are active and then sleep for a bit and then are active again, and they can sleep for quite a long time, especially assassin snails, because they hunt for another snail, and when they've got a prey, they can sleep for up to a week. For other snails, it's more like sleeping 1 or 2 days, but it's very important that you do not judge too fast. Whenever a snail is floating, there's nothing wrong with him. Floating is actually a natural behavior that they actually also do in the wild. So you've got to imagine a snail that's living in a fast-flowing river. They occasionally float just to travel faster. So when they float, the current takes them, and obviously at the snail pace you won't get anywhere very quickly, so they use that to travel faster. It can mean that the water parameters in your aquarium are not suitable or not optimal for snails, because you can imagine that they start floating when they want to look for a new environment, or want them to take the current, or want the current to take them to a better environment. So if they're very hungry, they start looking for food. So make sure you check on your water parameters, and also make sure that you provide your snails with enough food. There are other ways to check whether your snail is passed, but they are more obvious. Basically, when you have a snail that has a crushed shell, then it's dead. When it's hanging out of the shell and you pick up the shell and it's not retracting, even when you basically tickle it a bit and it's not retracting, then the snail has sadly passed away. If you've got bigger snails like apple snails or mystery snails, they've got a cover in front of their the hole in the shell. If they're alive and you gently tug on the cover a little bit, then you should feel resistance. If the snail has passed away, it's no longer able to provide that resistance, so you can open the door of the shell. Then, if your snail is hanging or sticking to the glass, or sticking to a rock, or sticking to a piece of wood, then it's alive, because dead snails cannot stick to anything. So that's a good sign. If it's hanging or sticking to anything, then you're still good. But the best test to see whether a snail has passed away is to remove it from the aquarium temporarily, smell it. If it smells like ammonia, then, or like any other dead thing, then it has passed away. Other very obvious examples, for example, this one, that's an empty shell. This snail has passed away a long time ago, and I failed to remove the shell from the aquarium, so it's still in there. Now, what you should be aware of is when you've got multiple snails in your aquarium and you let go of the water parameters a little bit, or the tank is not properly cycled, so there are not enough bacteria that can help break down ammonia, then you can have a domino effect that appears when one snail passes away. So if a snail passes, it produces a lot of ammonia. We just covered that. But what if that ammonia level rises in your aquarium? Because ammonia at a very low concentration is already toxic to fish and also to snails. So if the ammonia from one snail pushes up the ammonia level and basically kills another snail, then that one is going to produce ammonia, and the level rises and rises and rises, basically causing a domino effect, potentially causing a giant ammonia spike that's also lethal to some of your fish. So it's important that you keep a close eye on your snails. Then, how old can snails become? Because there are multiple ways to die, and the best one, of course, is a natural death when it has lived a long life. It differs per snail breed. I'll put some numbers up on the screen. So as you can see, for mystery snails and apple snails, it's slightly higher, and for most snail types that we keep in our aquarium, it's about a year. How can you benefit the health of your snails? What can you do to improve their health and to make sure they live as long as possible? One of the things that snails need that fish don't need that much is actually calcium to build their shell. And if you've got a lot of snails in a small tank, then you need to supplement calcium. There are a couple of ways to do that. The first one, and the easiest one, is to buy vacation feeders or holiday feeders at your local pet store. They're actually built for fish, mostly goldfish, and they're built to release food over time. And the way they do that is the food is encapsulated in a block of calcium. So the calcium dissolves over a week's period of time. Other way is to add, I forgot the name. Another way to do it is to add cuttlebone. Cuttlebone is the bone you often see at seashores when you're walking on a beach. And it's a great way for us fish keepers to increase the calcium concentration in our aquarium water. So when you buy it, you can buy it at local fish stores or local pet stores. They're often also used for birds. And you just chuck it in like that. It's going to float like a piece of foam, but you don't want that. The way to do it is to briefly boil the cuttlebone in boiling water, and then it will sink like a rock. If you're ready to learn more about freshwater fish keeping, make sure you press that subscribe button, and I think there's even a bell or something. Make sure you leave a like if you like the video, and if you've got any questions at all, make sure you comment them below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. I'll see you guys next video. Thanks.